Good afternoon, everyone. Okay, so as in a few days, heads of state and government will adopt the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. We think that it's important to reflect on the role of the civil society within the agenda challenges and goals. In particular, within the paper we will briefly present you, we try to analyze on one hand the role of foundation and philanthropy as a particular type of civil societal organization, and on the other hand, as we are participating in the UN Global Summit on Youth, to highlight the necessity of a more active role of youth in the decision-making process on sustainable development. So our consideration are the direct results of our experience as the young ambassadors of the civil society pavilion at the Universal Exposition that is currently ongoing in Milano, the city we are all coming from. The two of us are coming from. The second slide, yes. So the establishment of Cascina Triulza as the first civil society pavilion in the history of Universal Exposition responds to a precise strategy of the municipality of Milan, which recognized the importance of people in the creation of a smart city and try hard to foster more active citizenship. Sorry. Of course. Within this context, Triulza Foundation was formally created on July 2030, and it represents a network of 63 organizations and associations of the civil society engaging in the creation of a fair and more equitable and sustainable society. In order to develop and advance the Expo Milano 2050 team that is feeding the planet energy for life, the foundation has set four goals for the civil society pavilions. That are, yes. The first, to give a voice to the voiceless, of recounting the real story of those who could not be present at Milano Expo, to share experiences for the promotion of good practice about the Expo 2050 theme, and to encourage awareness and involvement, giving the right value to the civil society efforts. And the last one, to create a dialogue for building a future interaction with other countries and international organizations. So this is how the pavilion in the Universal Exposition in Milano looks like. It's what we call Cascina, with a farmstead that has been renovated for this occasion. Our presence, our role. Our role as young ambassadors was for the civil society pavilion, was to get an external and comprehensive assessment of the activity carried out by the pavilions and its cultural programs. We are just two, of course, three of the 10 PhD students that have been selected for this task. Our mandate started in May 2050, yeah. Current with the annual General Assembly, AGA, meeting of the European Foundation Center, where we had the role of observer and young reporter. This was our first direct connection with the world of foundation and philanthropy, and a chance for us to better understand internal dynamics, the main themes among foundation, and the possible ways of involving local communities in sustainable development strategies. Now my colleague Elisa will briefly present you the consideration, our consideration in relation to our experience.
We are now moving to the core of our analysis, and we will present four main elements, the key elements of our assessment. And for any of them, we will briefly define the role the foundation can have in this context, but also the limits and potential obstacles that sometimes this foundation have faced during their action. And we will start with community resilience, that is defined as the ability of a system to, let's say, anticipate, absorb, also react or recover from the effects of a shock in an efficient manner and efficient fashion. So philanthropy role in this context could be threefold, because it could be drivers for new energy, a sort of network, but it could also have some role in the short term, in the sense that foundation can always like give recovery and immediate response to emergency a natural disaster, for example, but also a long-term function as a grant supporter. And of course, the challenges are related to the measurement of the action, because from one side, it's important to measure and assess the social, let's say, results of the action. So, cost and benefit analysis is usually required, but on the same time, there is a risk of losing the focus of the own action, and this assessment can become the final goal instead of a tool by which evaluate this action. The second theme is called alliances, and it's meant as the active collaboration between different actors. If we imagine social policies, we can easily think about different actors that could be involved. Government, for example, research community, foundations, local communities, and also private sector. So foundation can work as a gap filler in the sense that could be a service providers filling the gap that governments have left open, for example, or also a role of advocacy in the sense that foundation can bring communities' needs to the attention of the policymakers, but it could be also a mediator between these different actors, because as we have heard over these 2 days, the importance of the language spoken is essential in order to succeed in a project. So foundation can mediate between local communities, language, and academic world, and also the private sector. It's not always an easy task because it requires coordination among foundations themselves, so they have to be able to share their experiences, but also the best practices. And at the same time, it's important to define the role of foundation in policy making. We have to answer to the question, how can foundation shape the political process or the political decision? Let's move to food sustainability. That is, of course, one of the most important themes within this context, not only because it is consistent with the leitmotif of the Universal Exposition, but also because it could be comprised in a broader concept as sustainable development. And food sustainability is defined as sustainable processes in food production and consumption, avoiding food waste all along the food supply chain. And in this context, foundation and the civil society can have a role as a promoter of new policies. An example is the Milan Charter, that is a document that calls on citizens, businesses, governments, associations, NGOs, organizations, in order to assure that future generations can enjoy the right to food. But they could also be a supporter of new initiatives of social innovation, such as startup promoting food waste recovery and food saving ideas. And of course, here the challenges are trying to engage citizens to participate in this, engage citizens and let them participate in this project, because as we have seen, it's not always easy to change people's lifestyle or people mentality. So that's a really important thing to consider. And it also extremely is important to consider food sustainability not as an isolated themes, but in connection with other issues like climate change, for example, and social injustice. So the role of the civil society and foundations in general should be that of mediate between this policy and try to combine them in order to to get to be successful. Last but not least, youth empowerment. We have thought that this is maybe the most important key element, and it's not by chance that in the occasion of the 17th anniversary of the establishment of the UN, the Global Summit is dedicated on youth. So youth empowerment is defined as an attitudinal, structural, and cultural process by which young people gain the ability but also the authority to make decisions and to implement them. So the relation between foundation can be twofold. Youth can be considered just as a target, so the beneficiary of foundation policies, and I think it's maybe also more useful. The youth can be considered as active actors, as the drivers, the promoter of these initiatives, so they can really bring creative initiatives and ideas. Of course, we have to start from narrowing the generation gap and the intergenerational inequalities in decision making, and it is necessary also to define tools by which the voice of young people can reach the policymakers. So if we think that today's young generation will be tomorrow's leader, we have also to focus and think of educating and training this future generation in order to let them be ready for that role. So, final considerations. We are here to share with all of you, young colleagues and young friends, a real example of a bottom-up initiatives, highlighting both the strengths and also the weaknesses of civil society actions. And there is an ongoing debate on the legacy of Triulza in the post-event. And as young reporter, we will make a lot of effort to guarantee coherence with the future role of this foundation, with its manifesto, but also to give continuity to the role that Cascina Triulza and the Triulza Foundation have been playing for 6 months already. So to be a forum, an avenue where different voices can be listened and can be shared. So we are quite happy to have observed that there is an increasing importance of the civil society, not only as the beneficiary of social policies, but also as an active actor. There is, in this way, a space for what is called active citizenship. And just finally, to conclude, we hope and we call for a larger participation starting today, from creative contribution to increased sensitivity toward the community's needs and the desire of getting involved. Triulza Foundation and Cascina Triulza is a small example of the role that foundation and generally philanthropy can take. They should be catalysts of energies, pioneers in new models of intervention, but also listener and translator to young people's voice. Because today's children and today's young people are not only future leaders, but also future inhabitants of our planet. And their participation and their involvement is crucial for a better and sustainable development. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Here our email if you want to contribute, to share comments, you are more than welcome. Thank you.